Network Entertainment.
If it starts to feel dishonest, then maybe you're being dishonest. Diba? If you feel like, parang dinaya ko na lang to, hindi ko na ginawa yung trabaho ko. Probably, if you're feeling guilty about
Right.
it, then you probably know that you've used it in a way that is a little bit iffy. And that's why I like coming at it from an ethics perspective where walang necessarily right or wrong, but we are looking at it from how are we using it as humans, and do we feel like it's fair, unfair? Are people being maligned? Have we taken someone's copyright unfairly? Like all of these things are going to be gray areas moving forward.
For people who struggle with English grammar,
Yeah,
but
okay.
they're writers, right? Because of the ease of cleaning it up, will that mean di na sila matututo?
Okay, I love this example.
Because I see it happening.
I look at it from the journalistic perspective that there are some journalists who are amazing at getting out into the field, doing interviews, doing the groundwork.
Yes.
Pero medyo sabit sila magsulat.
Madami.
Right?
Hi, this is Mirza Season. Welcome to You Can Do This, a podcast that'll help you achieve your dreams and goals one episode at a time. What are you waiting for? Let's go! Who's not worried that AI will take away our jobs, make us and the rest of the world dependent, useless, gullible, and stupid? It's a little too late to resist it. So, what if instead of giving into our fears, we become proactive and learn about how AI can help us work smarter, free up time for what truly matters, and level up our lives in ways we never imagined? The truth is, if you don't catch up with AI now, you could be left behind and at a disadvantage in both your personal and professional life. Good thing I ran into our guest today at the launch of TPN Studios because he's the perfect person to help us figure this out. He's the executive director and chief AI ethicist at Data and AI Ethics PH. And he's on a mission to show us how to use AI responsibly to improve our lives, not complicate them. An entrepreneur, media startup CEO, and creative director at a social enterprise, he also teaches creative writing at the Fine Arts Department of the Ateneo de Manila University. And proof of humanity, he's a certified human-centered coach from Haraya Coaching, showing us how to unlock the power of AI without fear. Please welcome Carljoe Javier.
Oh, thank you, Mirza.
Hello.
I'm so privileged to be here.
And I'm so lucky to have run into you the other day. So your background spans so many fields. Tell us the story of how you came to be drawn to AI and how you're now championing its ethical use.
So the main thing was when I was at my last work, Puma Podcast, I helped to build out AI-driven workflows. So that sounds
Oh.
super boring, but
No.
that's what I like is like the boring parts of technology of,
Right.
okay, if I'm a boss and there are certain things that my company needs to do, what of these things can I use to make life simpler for them? So for example, AI-driven transcription
Right.
cuts the work. Stuff like yung levels ng audio, editing, text-based editing for podcasting was great because then it's like I'm editing a Word file. So it's not always just generative, but there's different ways that we can use it. So that's the immediate answer. But the long-term answer is I've always loved science fiction.
Okay.
Okay. And as an undergrad, that was my specialization, science fiction and fantasy. And so I've always been obsessed with what technology can do, how technology can move us forward in the world. And so it's crazy that I am part of that millennial generation that grew up without technology. And I look up and I see we are literally living in a science fiction world now.
Yes,
Diba?
we are,
We're-
definitely.
This is if someone from 100 years ago was dropped into right now, that they would not be able to
Right.
handle all of this. And so I feel very privileged that we're seeing all of this technological change now. So that's where it comes from. Is this passion for seeing where this is going for humanity.
Right. And in a nutshell, for all the non-techie listeners, please define AI and what does it mean for ordinary people?
So AI is sort of a big, broad, all-encompassing term, and there's different versions of it. But basically, it's systems that can make decisions on their own.
Okay.
And so the funny thing is, meron akong rice cooker. Tapos nung binili ko siya,
No.
what was it, like a few years ago, it says AI powered. And basically because it has the ability to make decisions to
Okay.
understand like at what point of cook the thing is. Or if you I don't know if you have a Roomba, but the
Yeah,
robot
yeah, yeah.
vacuum, those things are AI also. And so those are very primitive, kind of old style AI. So that is AI. When you go on Waze and you try to check
Hmm.
what the route is, that's also AI.
Alexa is AI.
Alexis
Okay.
AI, but that's a simple like.
Right.
So there's various versions, and then what we understand now, and sort of the killer app of AI is the LLMs and
Yes,
chatbots.
yes.
So yung mga ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, Copilot, all of these things are what we think of when we say AI, but it's really a big system of different kinds of technological stuff. And I'm gonna use words like stuff and ganon because I'm also not a science person, right? I'm a creative writing person, but I
Right.
but I also want to say that this is not just for people who code, and it's not people just for people with science backgrounds and math backgrounds. Now tayong mga English major, we can get in here.
Right.
I'm literally an English major.
So, to get it out of the way, the FAQs. Will AI replace our jobs, make us lazier, make us dumber? Yon.
All right. So one of the things that I say when I give talks, and I'm probably going to repeat it a few times here, is AI problems are basically human problems.
Okay.
And so, is AI going to replace certain jobs? It will, in the way that technology has always replaced
Right.
jobs. If we look back again, like we go 100 years ago, there were very few cars because there were horses.
Yes.
But now
Yes.
all of that has been replaced. I love the word, but imagine there used to be a job called lamplighter
Okay.
because before electricity,
Right,
there were
right.
lamps, and that's how you had light in the streets before. So these jobs don't exist anymore, and that's the way the technology goes. So, will we lose our jobs? It depends on what job, and it depends on how good you are at your job.
Right.
But also, as with all of technology, whenever there's a new technology, new jobs will be created. And actually, we're at the point where we can't imagine what the new jobs for AI will be, but you can imagine AI manager is going to be a job.
Okay.
Mga
Right.
ganon. So,
Someone
yes.
still has to manage the
Yeah,
AI.
kasi who will decide what is done with it? And I
Right.
think one problem is sometimes people go to the Terminator scenario where it's just
Yes.
super intelligent, it's going to take care of.
They'll have a
But
life of their own.
yeah, but sometimes your AI is incredibly smart and sometimes it's incredibly stupid and it still needs guidance. So there's one where AI is going to be super intelligent and super powerful. And for me, there's one it's being advanced by these guys who wrote a book called AI Snake Oil. And what they say is AI is going to be normal. It's a normal technology. It's going to make us better, make us faster, but it's not like world ending in the way that some people are saying. So, open debate. But where I fall on it is it's a technology for us to use. If we are good at our jobs, it will make us better at our jobs. If we're not very good at our jobs, then maybe it's the opportunity to leave that one and then find one that you can be better at because AI will free up your time. Will it make us lazier? Diyan babagsak yung, I think if you were a student and you were gonna cheat anyway.
Talaga?
Oh, isipin mo like, bakit may gumagawa ng papers sa Quiapo? Ganyan. Because this person wasn't going to do that anyway.
Right.
Why are there ways to cheat on the exam? Because they were gonna cheat anyway. It's just a new tool to cheat with. So it's still a human problem. Someone cheating because hindi sila nag-aral, they're not really that interested in the subject. So that's where I fall on that. It's still a human problem. But if you're super engaged, you're really interested, ikaw nagsusulat ka, you would write the thing because you care about the thing that you're doing. So it's still about humans caring about the things that we do. And when we're tamad, we want to hand it off to something else. And that's what it is.
Right. And speaking of handing it off to someone else, where do we draw the line? For example, Cheat GPT. Where do we draw the line between Chat GPT being an efficient learning aid and the dishonest shortcut?
I don't know how this lands for you, but if it starts to feel dishonest, then maybe you're being dishonest. Diba? If you feel like, ay, parang dinaya ko na lang to, hindi ko na ginawa yung trabaho ko. And probably, if you're feeling guilty about
Right.
it, then you probably know that you've used it in a way that is a little bit iffy. And that's why I like coming at it from an ethics perspective where walang necessarily right or wrong, but we are looking at it from How are we using it as humans? And do we feel like it's fair, unfair? Are people being maligned? Have we taken someone's copyright unfairly? Like all of these things are going to be gray areas moving forward. If you feel like you cheated, maybe you did, and then you have to do some self examination. But for example, so I used LLMs to help me develop my course materials for mga syllabus. And what I do is I talk into the
Right.
LLM. Like, dadaldala ko. These are all my ideas.
Yeah, yeah,
Lalala.
yeah.
Organize mo siya.
Yeah.
Is that, like, I feel like that's still me. Those are my inputs.
Right.
And then I guided it with research. I gave it project knowledge. And then I had it produce something that came from me. I have no qualms about doing that because I know that that could not exist without me.
But does it make you lazy about thrashing out those thoughts and making them coherent?
Yun yung question is, how can you be lazy or masipag about thrashing out thoughts? I remember as a younger person, I would really bug friends. I would hang out in bars and bug friends. And then I was on Yahoo Messenger. And I
Okay.
would send them bits of prose to help me.
Okay.
Guys, is this sentence working? Am I being coherent?
Right.
Now I don't have to bug my friends. I have these chatbots that I can work
Right,
with,
right.
and it's more immediate and it's quite helpful. And if I need like a research assistant, I can do that. So I feel empowered. And I think that's the difference is, does it empower you to be better at what you do?
Right.
Or are you just using it because it's something that you don't want to do? If it's something you don't want to do, either you're unmotivated or it's not that important. And if it's not that important, then hand off na natin.
Or for example, for people who struggle with English grammar,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
they're writers, right? Because of the ease of cleaning it up, will that mean di na sila matututo?
Okay. I love this example.
Because I see it happening so
I love this
much.
example because there's two ways I look at it. One is I look at it from the journalistic perspective that there are some journalists who are amazing at getting out into the field, doing interviews, doing the groundwork.
Yes.
Pero medyo sabit sila magsulat,
Madami.
right? And so they can elevate their writing to a level na passable na siya for an editor to go
Right.
through. And that's one because the primary function of them was to go down into the field and get stuff that nobody else could get.
Right.
Now, the other side of this is because we both have a background in creative
Yes.
writing, when my students ask me, I say, dapat yung grammar mo, grammar, language, all of this stuff, this is what you are as a craftsman. And your craft in language separates you from everyone else. Anong karapatan mo mag-claim ng creative writing degree if you don't have that craft?
Right.
So I think that's where I fall is craftsmanship is something, and sure AI might be able to do it faster, might do it better or ganon. Pero AI also doesn't have style in the way that I want to have style.
True.
And if I start sounding like AI, sana i-replace na lang niya ako, di ba? Which means that as a writer, that means my style, my voice needs to be better developed. So
Right.
if it helps me have better voice and style, great. Yon, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Could the analogy be like before hand sewn lahat ng garments, di ba? And that's the craft. And then nung nagka-sewing machine, bakit patatahiin? Meron ng
Meron
sewing
na,
machine.
oo.
Pero yung fashion design,
Yes.
dun yung talent. So does that make like English grammar now just a technical machine generated component of the finished
It
artwork?
Yes and no. Because if it's just English language as a communication device for information, journalism,
Right.
and this is sorry if I'm belittling journalism, pero yung mabilis ang kailangan
Yes,
ilabas
yes,
kasi
yes.
the speed of
Speed ang
journalism
labanan niya.
is so important. But if I'm a poet, a fictionist, an
Right,
essayist,
right.
may craftsmanship level na pa. This is this person's prose. And, when you read someone, a prose stylist, like, tatamaan ka talaga ng, my gosh, the way that this person uses words. So, nandun siya. So, yeah, the highest level di ba? Like, if it's handmade,
Yeah, yeah.
diba? So in
True.
literature, in words, what is handmade? Sa akin,
Right.
that's my term for this wordsmithing.
Right,
Diba?
right, right.
Oh, diba?
Right. So you're a creative writing teacher. Will AI kill creativity or can it enhance creativity and how?
So, dalawa yan, no? Like, will it kill creativity? And I think one of the fears there is actually, will it kill creative livelihoods?
Yes.
And I think the creative livelihoods need to adapt. But that's still a human problem. The human problem of creative livelihood, creative production, getting paid is that Philippines as a society, global society in general, undervalues artistic production. The amount of time that we spend living our lives so that we can have, parang bumubuo tayo ng bala para makapagsulat. Tapos yung time na nagsusulat tayo at naguhubog tayo ng work, it's undervalued because people just want to see the story, di
Yeah,
ba? And
yeah,
how
yeah.
much do you get paid for that? So the problem is undervaluation of art. That's one problem. Yung creativity, that's another one. How creative are we now? And the question is, are we actually more creative today than before? I think so. I think if you look up at the volume of what's being created, like I'm so in awe of young people and of the different art that I get to interact with, whether it's literature, music, film, yun ba? People are just making next level stuff. So if you consider that AI is a tool that can empower artists, then that just means more art.
Right. How do you use AI in your creative pursuits?
Ah, so for example, I don't know if I got to show this to you, but my favorite poetic form is the sestina.
Okay.
And yung sestina is like you get six words and then they're alternating end words
Okay.
in a stanza. Kaartehan.
Right,
Anyway,
right.
what is important is the you have six words and they're alternating. And so what I would do is I created a sestina generator that has a dictionary and then it generates the pattern for me.
Right.
So then I can write into the pattern and then it challenges me to write in a different way. So that's how I would use AI. One, to challenge me to get out of my normal thing, to give me prompts, to do quick research because the amount of time that it takes AI to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
research on certain things.
Right.
My latest book is called AI Pop Culture and Philosophy.
Oh,
And so Don, I had it just look up some stuff. And like this is a very simple question, but it was anong nauna, scuba or 20,000 leagues under the sea? Because I needed to know and it dug it up for me in like
right.
30 seconds. And then I dropped that in and then I'm like, how long between so 70 years between 20,000
Right,
leagues
right,
under the sea
right.
and that. And I said, how long between the iPad and Star Trek The Next
Yeah, yeah.
Generation? 20 years. So that's a simple thing, but does that make me less or more creative? It gave me time to be focused on my prose by
Right,
pulling up facts for me.
right. And what LLMs do you use?
All, all,
Oh,
because I'm experimenting with all of them. So I've got, Claude, ChatGPT are kind of default. Then I have them
yeah.
talk to each other, Perplexity, Gemini. Yeah, so I'll use everything that's available. Might as well mention si Mistral because that's the
Oh,
European one that's worth
okay.
trying out.
Okay. I tried Claude. I made an infographic
Oh, nice. Yeah.
out of like some concepts for
How
my
did it go?
coaching. I was quite amazed, like in 1 minute,
Yeah.
my infographic.
And the question is, did it lessen your appreciation of real art? Hindi naman.
Hindi naman kasi functional naman yung
See?
infographic.
See, you didn't feel guilty.
No, no,
See?
no. Baka AI guilt will be another topic. How about in everyday life? Like for people who are not writers or you mentioned rice cookers, Roombas. How
Yeah.
else can AI make our everyday lives
Ways
better?
we probably are not that aware, but every time you jump on like a Zoom, you're using Crisp, which is an AI that
Oh.
does noise rejection and then voice focusing.
Oh.
So it's like free. It's inbuilt into that app. I think we don't really notice, but for example, if you're on iPhone, you can use it to take notes when you're having a
Yes.
conversation.
I do that.
So these really simple things. So one is you don't really need to use it, but if you find something that you're frustrated with, you can make AI do it for you.
Right.
You can probably build something. And the thing is, there's a there's vibe coding, which is you can build programs using text, voice prompts.
Wow.
And then you just tell the program what you want it to be able to do, and then you can build something for yourself in a way that we never could do before. So it's just finding these really simple applications and then supercharging yourself with it.
Wow. What's the weirdest way you've used AI?
Weirdest way I've used AI. Ato, as coaches, I wanted to test if it could coach me through a situation, and
It can.
it
Yeah.
can.
I've tried it too.
Yeah. Pero iba pa rin pag tao. Iba
Siyempre.
pa rin yung ability niya. Pero yung
Yung
kailangan mo ng
frameworks.
yung needed help, ganyan.
Uh-uh.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Uh-uh.
Mga Immortal, listen to the Underpaid Podcast with me, Stanley Chi, wherein we talk about work-related topics in a light manner na parang nagchichismisan lang tayo or nagkukwentuhan. Listen for free on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or kung saan ka man nakikinig ng podcast. Kita-kits!
For me, I experimented with, I was packing for a trip, and then I said, I am thinking of bringing the following clothes: black pants, white shirt. And then I said, give me all the combinations and tell me which garment can I extract the most use out of. Oh,
Oh,
galing.
wow.
Kaya lang early chat GPT pa siya, so
so
walang
did it do
visual.
well? Ah.
Walang visual, pero may list. So you
Okay,
can make a
yeah.
packing list. Or like before, I used to use my Fitness Pal to log in everything I ate.
Yeah.
Now I'll just say, I ate the following today: 1 cup of rice. Compute the calories and the macros and graph the macros and tell me
Diba? It's may
if I'm
table ka pa.
deficient or in excess.
Nilig. Ako, I was going to a wedding and then may theme yung colors, ganon. And then I just said, what necktie should I have if this is the theme? So I don't know what necktie matches. And
Grabe.
then meron pa siyang suggestions of, if you want a more conservative look, ito. But if you want to be louder, these are your options. And then my regular uses for recipes.
Oh, yeah. I have the following ingredients.
Yeah. Or, I'm cooking this thing, pero nasa Pilipinas ako. So, help me with
Substitutes.
ingredients na local na pwede.
It's kind of scary that it can be a substitute friend, doctor, counselor,
Yeah.
nutritionist.
I think there's limits to that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ethical questions that we need to have is how
Yes.
much do we want to allow this? Kasi minsan, kailangan mo na ng something to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah.
And I think that's why one of the reasons I like Claude is if you try to get too personal, it will remind you, I'm a chatbot.
Oh,
Baka nakakalimutan mo.
may
I'm a
boundary
chatbot.
siya.
Oo. But I will help you with this thing. Kasi I think the more that we interact with this, the more we should also learn to value our friendships and to know that now
Our
I can go
human
to my
friendships.
Of course. Diba? But I don't know if, and this may not necessarily be an AI thing, but it's a post-pandemic thing. Now we got so used to not seeing our friends.
True.
And then I don't know about other people's experience, pero yung friends who flake,
Yeah.
parang may usapan kasi hindi lang.
Yeah.
And for me, like the valuation of friendship now, because I have all of these options for interaction, I value human connection so much more.
I hope it's the same effect for
You know,
everyone.
for everyone, yeah. I used to dream of like, kasi I used to be very antisocial, and I used to dream like, I just wish I didn't have to deal with people and I
Right.
could just
Oh, paano
talk
yan?
to
Kung
robots
ganon.
and things, and they could, diba?
And it came true.
And now it's true. And it's like, no, I want to see my friends pala.
So what does it actually mean to use AI responsibly and ethically?
So there's certain levels to this, no, and I know that, for example, there's a fair amount of resistance on the environmental impacts of AI. So that's something that we need to be studying. Although, sa larger usage of energy, there's a lot of wasteful usage globally that we need to start sorting out. Sa Pilipinas, energy questions, because it's expensive to use energy in the Philippines in general. So, is the solution there, for example, to not use AI, or is it to advocate for more efficient energy production in the Philippines? So that's one of those. When you deploy an AI system into your company, for example, are you being fair, or are you? So one of the common use cases is you use it to filter through job applicants. And if you use something that's off the shelf, Western, it's possible that it has inherent biases.
Yes.
So making sure that when you use it, you have removed or built it so that you are not being unfairly biased. But again, that's a human problem na. Sometimes we're biased in hiring. We want to hire the top universities. Whatever.
Yeah.
So, so reflecting on how we're going to use the technology and then using it in a way that is more empowering rather than removing people.
Right. So, given the not naman threat, the prospect of AI being everywhere, what are the top 3 skills we should all develop so that we're not Left behind.
Top three skills. One, I think the first is even before thinking about skills, it's just becoming familiar with certain applications of the
Okay.
technology. So just having one of the chatbots on and seeing how you use it and seeing what it's capable of. And here's one of the challenges with AI. AI adoption is actually when it doesn't work the way that people expect it to, they're like, "Ay, it doesn't
Yeah.
do what I want,
Uh-uh.
pangit pala,"
Uh-uh.
and then they decide not to use it.
Right.
But we're in an exploration phase right now,
Yeah.
and so there are things that it's very very smart at, and things that it's very dumb at. Like I've been saying, Ethan Mollick, who's a researcher, he calls it the jagged edge of AI development, which means may mga sobrang magaling siya, and then
Right.
mahina talaga siya dito. And
Right.
if you are a person who understands how to navigate what it's good at and what it's weak at, you're going to be better.
Right.
So that's one, is knowing just the basics of how to use it. Number two, and this isn't necessarily a skill so much as something that we should all have, is have a sense of your data privacy.
Oh, okay.
Kasi AI doesn't exist without data, right? Its ability to make these inferences is based on, it has mountains and mountains of data, which means that our data is really valuable and it is aggregated. But when we're using it, if we put it out there in a way that we have not managed, it can be a way to attack us.
So is there a danger of like our past queries turning up later and say,
I'm not that worried about it, but for example, and like, you know, one of the things with AI, right, is AI is a thing that can teach you to defuse a bomb, but it can also teach you how to make a bomb. And so, in that same way, imagine all of the stuff that you've put online can be used to social engineer a way to scam you.
oh my gosh, that's true.
Diba? They'll figure out, oh, what are the things you care
Right.
about and things like that. So, knowing your data usage and your vulnerabilities is important para you stay safe, right? And then the last skill is just, it's not a skill, it's a mindset. Yung growth mindset of technology is here to help me, and how can I introduce it into my workflow? So it's that general openness and willingness to experiment. So it's not a specific thing, it's just ways to approach and think about
Right.
AI so that we are ready.
I think that mindset is not yet present in most of the people I know.
Fearful kasi.
Parang I can count on my hand lang the people who use AI already for their work.
Why are they resistant?
Like you said, they tried it once, pangit, or they're guilty about using it. So what's your advice for people who need to get with the program and not be intimidated or guilty, I guess?
Sometimes I think, kasi one of the ways to look at it is to look at technological advance. And imagine someone 100 years ago not wanting to get on a plane,
That's true.
right? And so
Yes.
planes existed, pero di ba,
Yeah,
how afraid would they be? Some people didn't want to take elevators,
that's true.
right? Imagine what is enabled by the elevator, but
Yeah.
yeah, and so each of these technologies came with a certain level of fear, but then also it comes with a level of opportunity. Probably the kind of most destructive, scariest technology, yung, atomic nuclear technology, Oppenheimer, no, parang ganyan. Yeah, like that was so powerful, but we've turned away from the opportunities there because there was a lot of risk. Dito, we need to figure out how big is the risk. If you're fearful of it, look at technologies that you've adopted without thinking about it.
Right.
No, parang the phone, napilitan din naman tayo eh. Social media, napilitan tayo. Like, you've lived through this whole thing na, oh guys, kailangan natin mag-digital. Okay, kailangan natin mag-social media,
TikTok!
kailangan mag-ganyan. Oh, di ba? Here we are.
Oh, may TV pa rin, may radyo
May
pa rin.
TV pa rin, may radyo pa rin.
May
At last
magazine pa rin.
resort, pero may streaming na, pero may ganito,
Tama.
may ganyan, di ba? And then vinyl is back, cassette tapes are back, CDs
Right,
are CDs are
right,
back.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hindi lang mabalik VCD, di ba?
Laser disc.
What the
So
format.
how has AI helped you become a more empowered version of yourself?
Yeah, so again, because I can't code,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Couldn't like all this website
Right.
stuff and ganun. But suddenly I find myself building those programs. And what it actually brings me to is this idea that the reason why I couldn't code is because it is a language that I do not speak. So I can understand the concepts, but I can't speak that language. So, syempre, I'm outside of it. And so now, through the English language, I can prompt these things or I can use it to show people and then they can build it. So
That's true.
there's definitely going to be things that we can't do. Diba? I can't draw. That's why I've always worked with comic book artists who can help to bridge the vision using language. I'll write it and then they'll draw it.
Right.
Diba? And so ganyan na rin. I'll write it and then I have something that can code it or that can communicate code to someone else who can use it.
So mas basic than basic language.
Yes. Yeah, diba? Like being good at English right now is really empowering, and obviously, parang on a socio-economic political level, sa Pilipinas, it's always been an advantage. But now, in terms of what we're able to accomplish, being an English speaker is going to be helpful because this is what these are trained on.
Right. Okay. Pero actually, ang galing ng Tagalog output ng ChatGPT.
Oo nga, eh.
Pati Taglish. Pati
Oo,
slang.
marunong na siya. And then yung mga meeting
Kaya
mo na Taglish,
nakakatakot.
kaya na.
Kaya mag-offer pa siya. Would you like that in Taglish?
It might do Filipino better than me, but that's okay.
So lastly, what are your top 3 tips on how to use AI ethically and responsibly?
Figure out where the data goes.
Oh.
That's really important because, for example, so this might be a little alarmist, but for example, DeepSeek, if anyone uses that chatbot, it's in China and therefore it's subject to in Chinese
Okay.
regulations, which means that you're feeding your data into mainland China, which means it is accessible to the Chinese Communist Party should they choose to want to access it. Is that scary? Maybe. I don't know. It's up to you. Right? But knowing where it goes. Because on the other end of it, the other stuff goes to US servers naman. If you really want to use DeepSeek, Perplexity has something housed in the US. So understanding how the data flows, where it's going. Because, for example, this is like one of the things I warn people about. If you're on a free plan and you upload files to it, that it's taking those files.
Pag hindi free, hindi.
It depends because depending on the chatbot, what you're paying for, and then what the limitations are. So, for example, if you're using a certain chatbot na binabayaran mo, you can house stuff in there
Okay.
that is not going into training data or not being transferred out. So that's one way you can do it. But imagine na rumarakit ka, you're on a free plan, linagay mo yung client work inside of an LLM.
Right. Oh my gosh. Like
You have
government
compromised-
files.
Yes, diba? You've compromised
Right.
that. So, pwede kang kasuhan ng client, possibly. So, these are like basic
Okay.
data privacy, AI ethics
Right,
questions.
right,
Is how are we managing the data that we're using?
Okay.
So, yun, number one for responsibilities, think about that data.
Where is it going?
Where is it going? How is it being used? What vulnerabilities are you creating? Medyo may overlaps din kasi with cybersecurity, no? But that's like a different conversation. That's one. Two, use AI and figure out what it works for and what it doesn't work for. So ganun pa rin. Testing, seeing what works, seeing what the limits are. I'll go back to yung DeepSeek kasi I posted about this a few months ago. I was messing around with it and I was asking it questions about the 9-line and the Uyghurs and ganyan, and it would refuse to answer.
Oh.
Right? And that's a really challenging ethical dilemma because when it starts answering, it actually has all of the information and then it edits itself.
May censorship.
Oo. So yung training layer niya, nando naman yung katotohanan. Pero yung output layer niya, may something stopping it from
Kung
giving
may
answers.
ganon, how do you know na hindi sneaky misinformation yung binibigay niya?
That's
Diba?
that's the thing.
Since may...
And the thing is,
What if may propaganda?
it's free. So ito na naman tayo sa good journalism is expensive and fake news is free.
Right.
But now in this age, so that is another kind of ethical dilemma that we need to be thinking about when we adopt certain
Right.
chatbots. Hindi gagamitin mo yung libre, pero ano yung kapalit? Gagamit ka ng free plan but you're right, like Facebook
Yeah.
and ganyan na.
Right.
Yeah, if you're not paying for the product, you're the product. So that extends to this space. And then the last one is just, is it a thing that empowers, or
Right.
am I using it to just try to get rid of certain things, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Parang lalong matatakot yung mga tao. What's your biggest takeaway for the people listening about how not to be intimidated and terrified after everything you've told us?
So it's, again, it's incredibly smart, and sometimes it's incredibly stupid. But if you approach it like a toy to be played with,
Right.
and you can set it aside and you can stop using it after a certain point, because that is also an option, right? Then you don't have to be, if you lead with fear, then obviously you're gonna make it do scary things to you. Di ba? It's going to respond in the way that you're trying
Right.
to get it to act. But if you're exploring, you're testing things out, there are certain things that you want it to do that you can't. Like, for example, gagawa ko ng slides, tapos magle-layout ng ganito.
Ah.
Okay. Or for example, like, I had to give like a career talk before. And so I didn't know what to talk about. So I wrote an essay, my parang autobiography, na 3-page autobiography.
Okay.
And then I fed it into it and said, take this and then turn it in. And then I fed it the guide questions na
Right,
binigay sa
right,
akin
right.
nung nag-invite. And then I fed it. And then I asked, okay, so given the guide questions and my autobiography, what should I present? Give me,
Right.
10 slides with this many points on each slide. And then it helped me to figure that out. So I was playing around with it. So that's the thing, is it's depending on who you are and what you do, you can figure out things that it can help you with.
Right. Great. Actually, you can do this
Yeah.
benefits from AI
Oh,
because I
really?
brainstorm topics.
Oh, see? Do you feel guilty?
Or no naman, because it makes it efficient. It keeps me consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Or for example, the research, diba? I got information about you, my next guest.
Does it give you ideas you didn't have before?
For sure. For sure.
Do you feel bad about it? Or are you glad that
Sometimes
it's
I'm a
there?
little guilty na parang bakit naisip na yun tapos hindi ko naisip yun. Paggamit nga.
Yeah, oh, diba? Well, it's generated on like the wealth of human knowledge and kind of human awfulness, pero it's generated
Yeah.
on the internet. So,
Yeah.
of course, it will have ideas. And we should, diba? Either you use it to unlock those ideas, or you go, well, ayoko.
Another use that I love is I can ask it to make acronyms to suit
That's
my
funny.
brand.
Acrostics. Ganda. Bigyan mo ako marami acrostics.
Parang
Ganda.
meron akong tips. Paki-acronym para mag-spell out siya ng confidence.
I love that.
Diba?
Hindi ko naisip yan. But
Sorry,
that's so
I
good.
revealed my secret.
That's so good.
So, in parting, what's the biggest misconception about AI you wish would go away?
That it's going to kill us.
Okay.
There's it's funny. Well, I guess not funny necessarily, but there's this thing called P doom, probability of doom. Like, AI researchers are trying to put a number on what percent chance they believe that AI is going to become this rogue, evil Skynet thing and kill us all. No, and I think the real challenge is most of pop culture, most of
Yes. War games.
books, movies, ganyan. Again, it's like Terminator, Matrix, and we're gonna be turned into batteries. Like, it's all of these doomsday scenarios, and it's those doomsday scenarios that define how we imagine kahit 2001 Space Odyssey. Like, all of them are showing us that AI is going to be evil, and so we're afraid of that. And what if parang kung
We've been conditioned.
yeah, like the AI is trained on training data, and that's what it will give out, diba? So parang ganun din tayo, kung ang training data natin about AI is it's gonna kill us, bro. So if we could set that aside and be like, oh nga, either it's a normal technology or the probability of that happening might exist, but it is a far off probability and not necessarily a high probability thing, then let's stop thinking about that and let's start thinking about how we use it for good.
Great. Thank you so much, Carljoe. Where can people find out more about your work, your thoughts, your
Sure. So
insights, rants?
I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm at Carl Javier on Instagram. I'm also on Blue Sky. And then Data and AI Ethics PH is on LinkedIn also.
Okay. And where can people find your book?
It's going to be on Amazon.
All right. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Carljoe.
Thanks for having me.
Bye. Thank you for listening to You Can Do This. If you want to know more about me, visit mirza.com. That's MYRZA.com. And follow me at Mirza Season on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If you like this episode, please don't forget to rate it 5 stars. Hit the follow button on your podcast streaming platforms and hit the notification bell to get alerted every time we release a new episode. Catch you at our next convo, and always remember, you can do this.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.